Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Real Talks. I'm your host, like always, Brady Carducci, and today on the show, I have the pleasure of talking with a Toronto-based entrepreneur, YouTuber, photographer, creative director. He does it all. He's worked with brands such as Air Canada, Formula One, Lamborghini, just to get into a few. Please welcome to the show, Alen Palander. Alen, thanks for calling, man. How's it going?
Hey man, thanks for having me, buddy.
No problem. I'm really excited to sit down with you. We're going to talk social media, branding, YouTube, all that good stuff. So I'm excited. But before we get into that, I know we chatted a little bit about it off camera. But how you been doing with COVID? How's kind of business been? How you been personally? Fill us in.
Yeah, I mean it's been a challenging time, as I can imagine, for everyone
Hmm.
around the world. I've been coping with it through various different methods. I mean, talking to people has been a huge part of it. Like I started these workshops, online workshops, where I've been mentoring a lot of up and coming photographers, or even people who are currently in the industry that just need to have a better grasp of social media and how to approach it. And that has been uplifting in many ways because you're not focusing on the negatives of what's happening around the world. You're kind of focusing on more of the opportunities and positivity that's being displayed. Aside from that, just enjoying summer, man. We've been having an incredible summer here in
We
Toronto. I don't
have.
want to jinx, I'm gonna knock on some wood right now, but we've been having an incredible summer in Toronto and I guess across Canada. And thankfully, we are in Canada, and things have been pretty consistent in terms of approach.
Yeah, I'm definitely, yeah, Toronto, like we were saying before, Toronto is definitely very beautiful in the summertime. So I'm happy now that at least things are opening up so we can kind of enjoy it a little bit more, stage three.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
know. I last night I enjoyed a nice dinner at a patio
there you
outside,
go.
and I feel like Toronto should have been like this from the get-go. I mean, we've always struggled with the outdoor spaces. It's always been
Yeah.
indoor, but I think this is a moment of transformation for the city, and hopefully we get to see more patios in the future.
Hmm. Do you have a go-to patio spot in Toronto?
I live off of Queen Street, so there's an abundance up to leading to Ossington.
Hmm.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but anywhere that you walk around Queen Street, you're gonna bound to stop at some sort of outdoor cafe or outdoor restaurant.
Yeah, you definitely live in a good location. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to just start things off by just getting into a little bit about your background because I feel like it's pretty unique. So you were actually born in Iraq, and I know you immigrated here with your family when you were quite young to Canada. So obviously, with culture in Iraq and Canada, I think is pretty different. How did you just adapt and transition to the Canadian lifestyle and I guess the Western way of living?
Yeah, I mean, I came here when I was relatively young. I was 7 years old. Leaving any country for anything that has to do with like war and anything that has to do with that kind of stuff is
Hmm.
difficult. I mean, it's a challenge in its own, and luckily I was young, and my parents and my siblings did an amazing job in kind of raising me here and guiding me throughout the process. Canada has been a breath of fresh air, to say the least. It's weird because the moment we were in Turkey, and we were sitting across the United Nations kind of representative, asking them
Wow.
where to, like, what are the situations, like what countries are letting people immigrate to them, and he gave us options. It was like Canada, Australia, and the United States, and he was talking to me in Turkish, and I happened to learn Turkish while living there for a year. And
Okay.
he was a Canadian. He was a Canadian, and he was like, "Don't go to the United States. Like, don't go to Australia. It's too far." And then he convinced me on Canada. And my parents are like, "What? Where? Like, what is Canada?" Because we didn't have a really clear understanding of it. I mean, in anywhere in the Middle East, and particularly in Europe, not as much now as before, but Canada was always kind of just like hidden.
Mm.
Um, I feel like it's now more discovered gem around the world, and Canadians get to show the rest of the world how incredible we are. And I happen to be able to be a Canadian that represents this country and traveling the world and working with brands and stuff like that. So it's been kind of a full circle experience for me, and it's been refreshing and an amazing opportunity for sure.
No, 100%. That's pretty cool. It's just funny too that like, he was Canadian, so he'll be a little bit biased, but it's just I find even when I'm traveling, I don't know if you can say the same, but like worldwide, I feel like, you say like, "Oh, I'm Canadian." Like people was like, "Oh my God, like we have a good reputation
Yeah.
worldwide, I think." Yeah,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
interesting because I don't get Canadian. Like, obviously, no one's gonna be stopping me on the street and be like, "Oh, you're Canadian."
mhm.
But when they like try to guess where I'm from, they'll say Europe first, and then I'll tell them, "No, I'm Middle Eastern," and then I'll be like, "They're like, oh, you're from Middle East." I'm like, "Yeah," and then I'll be like, "But I live in Canada." And they're like, "Oh, Canada." So their reaction kind of just like grows, and it's cool. It's a good feeling now for sure.
Mhm.
I feel like we're a lot
Now,
more competitive as a country now, so that's good. We need
I
the
think so
competition.
too. Yeah, exactly. We need to be like in there because I feel like you were saying for so long, Canada's just been like kind of pushed to the side, but now no more, which is good.
No, yeah. I think the rest of the world should see what we're doing and kind of follow in our footsteps, not the other way around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you said that was now when you moved over here, uh, and did you settle right in Toronto? Like, did you settle in the suburbs and then eventually gravitated towards Toronto? Like, how was your upbringing when it came to kind of just traveling and moving around?
Yeah, I mean, when we came to Canada, I mean, it was a dark night. Like we landed on the airplane and it was just we were in Saga and we're like, what is happening?
Oh my
And we
God.
had some relatives in Mississauga and they were trying to convince us to stay in Mississauga and live there. But because we were refugees, we had to work with the Canadian government and they
Mm,
located us in Kitchener-Waterloo. So I was raised in, not born, I was raised in KW for, I guess, half of my life. And then went to university there. All my siblings went to school there. And then yeah, slowly we just all kind of just started expanding our minds and then moving towards like the cities more. And I've been living in Toronto for more than 7 years now. So
oh, okay. Yeah. So you've been living for a long
yeah,
time
yeah,
now.
I've been
Okay.
here for quite a bit now. Yeah,
Awesome. So you said, perfect point. You mentioned you went to university, when Waterloo. I know. So I feel like your path into photography in particular is pretty unique because you started out in the architecture, the design field. I know going to UFT, your master's.
yeah.
So what made you want to like just take that switch and go, hey, you know what, architecture is not for me. I want to get into photography. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I wish it was more of an easy decision to have been made, but it was very difficult. From when I was really young, I wanted to be an architect because I was just really fascinated by architecture and how people really connected with it. I found
Mm,
that it's the one thing that like brings people in, can push people out. It has a lot of emotional connectivity with humans and how we act as civilized humans. And so I was fascinated by that, and I just thought it was beautiful. I traveled really young and got to see places around the world that like really expanded my mind. And so undergrad urban design, and then masters I started in architecture. But while I was doing my undergrad and while I started my masters, I was on social media just sharing
okay.
pictures of my travels. It was just like I'd go to Italy and I'll take pictures of like Rome or something, and I'd post them on there. And it was nothing of me, or there was the context was really around architecture and how architecture was like such an importance in those places.
Mm,
And then next thing you know, it's like Instagram reaches out, all these other, online freaking websites and publications, and one company after another just keeps messaging me saying, "Hey, we want to work with you." And then it became into bigger brands. And at that point I was kind of at a standstill. Like, what do I do? I just started my master's, but like I'm
oh,
already making a lot more money than if I finished my master's and worked as an architect for the next 5 years. So I was like, whoa, how do I approach this?
yeah.
And I sat with the dean of my university and I explained the situation. He just looked at me like dumbfounded. He's just like, what do you mean? Like, you're telling me that you have 13 flights booked for the next 3 months and you're sitting here in class being like, it's like, go do this, go pursue it. Obviously, it wasn't the only person I spoke to. I spoke to my parents and stuff like that, but everyone was super positive about me leaving architecture to pursue this. I needed that. I couldn't make the decision on my own. I felt so, it was bizarre because it was like what I was passionate about and what I wanted to be so bad my entire
Hmm.
life. And then versus like this amazing opportunity just kind of landed in my hands that I didn't know what the potential could be for. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, I obviously made a decision and I do not regret it at
Yeah,
all.
yeah, it's definitely. I'd say it's definitely worked out for you. That's for sure.
Yeah, it worked out. And I think it worked out because I took all the energy and all that aspiration and I just put it into this. And I said, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do 100 and like 200%. I'm not even going to give it 100%. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of people need to do that when they're trying to start something new.
Yeah.
They really have to refocus their energy.
Yeah, and especially too, it's like, you were young at the time, and it's like, now that, I feel like at a young age, that's exactly the time to be taking risks, because it's like, if I go this direction and it doesn't work, you still have time to like rebound and figure out your next plan, rather than, you wait like until you're, I don't know, 30, 40, you have more responsibilities, kids, a wife, all that. It's like, it makes it a lot tough to make those type of decisions, right? So,
Yeah, no,
um,
for sure. I mean, luckily I didn't have all those restrictions.
mhm.
If I had a wife and kids and I had to decide on something like that, that would have been really difficult. And it's crazy because you think that those type of opportunities only come to people who don't have those things in their lives. But a
Mhm.
lot of my friends that are super successful off of social media and whatever, they're all married with kids,
Oh
and they're
wow,
like
okay.
balancing and juggling all these like career changes. And but you got to look at it and analyze it and really calculate the decision. And sometimes that takes time. It's not like a in the moment thing that you do.
Hmm. Now, in the beginning, when you mentioned that a lot of brands and stuff were reaching out to you, just off of your content and stuff, they obviously liked. Did you like going into it? Were you super confident? Like, was there doubt in your mind that you could make this work? Because you're coming from a field that's I mean, it's similar in terms of like it's an art, it's a creative background in it, but it's totally different when it comes to operating cameras and branding and all that stuff. So, were you confident? Was there doubt? Like, what did you do to overcome that doubt, if you had any, and what learning kind of resources did you go to?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be human if I didn't have any doubt. Like
Of
I,
course.
I in the beginning was like, damn, like you want me to fly where and do what campaign? I'm like, I barely even know how to use this camera still, because like a lot of my focus was just on creating the work, not really thinking about the process or
Okay.
really analyzing the other opportunities that might come from it. And yeah, you start to doubt yourself, but then you got to change that doubt into just a big question mark that needs an answer, right? So what is it that you're doubting? And I had to like work through that in stages. Really understanding what it was to be a photographer or to be a creative director or to like work with a brand and build their entire creative kind of personality online. Like, these are things that I didn't really know much about, but I took it the same way I took my education. It was just like, you go through the theory and you do the application aspect of it. Um, and I think breaking up into stages really
Okay.
definitely changed the way I approached it. And to this day, it's made things a lot easier for me because even with starting my production company, I wouldn't have been able to do that unless I had my like urban planning or urban design degree. Because in that degree, I learned how to really strategize and plan things and really figure out who is doing what and like what are the responsibilities, because you can't do everything yourself. And for a
No.
very long time, I was, because I didn't know what I was doing, right?
Mm.
Uh, so yeah, there's a lot of challenges that you do have to face, and you kind of just take them one at a time.
Yeah. And I'm sure like, obviously as each brand you work with is kind of like, you grow as a photographer, as an individual too. So it's like, I can imagine the progression when you look back was probably pretty crazy to see, because it's like, this is how I went about working with this brand. And then you kind of reflect, and you're like, wow, I've really come a long way when it comes to like, probably the quality of the content you're shooting. And then just the process in terms of like, email and like, how you approach dealing with each client, which is, it's always good to see. And it means that, it's a positive thing. Right. So, um,
Absolutely. I mean, the one thing I do always recommend people to do, and I don't usually say this on camera, but I always tell people write a list of like 10 things that you are not comfortable with. And for
okay.
me, it was like if someone asked me to go on stage in front of hundreds of people and explain to them what it means to be a photographer, what I'm doing as a career choice. Because for me, I like, as much as I was passionate about it, my heart was still in something else. So I was still like kind of
Mm,
not motivated as I'd
yeah.
like to be. But I did that list, and slowly you start to cross off those challenges, and then you get to a point where things don't really phase you anymore. Like,
Okay.
honestly, like the biggest brand in the world could hit me up tomorrow and have like the most crazy deliverables, expectations could be out of like the craziest expectations, and I would just be like, okay, let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. You like, you don't
You
bat, you
overcome.
don't bat an eye.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are fearful of the things that they think that they can't do, and they avoid them at all costs. And I don't think that's how you grow. I think the way that you grow is you just create those circumstances for you to kind of hurdle over those things yourself, and don't let them just come because they came, you know, because it just happened as a situation. So
Mm-hmm.
like as a good example was I got asked to do a TEDx talk,
Oh,
and
wow.
I got asked to do it twice. The first time I rejected it because I was super like, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to talk about? Like,
Right.
first of all, like I have to memorize a speech, I have to like do all this. And it wasn't that I have like a fear of public speaking. It was just more like I didn't know what I wanted to talk about. And
Right.
I was fearful that if I don't know what I'm talking about, people are just gonna think I'm just kind of just like doing this because it's cool.
Right.
Um,
Okay. Or you want
but
the
I
attention or
challenged
something
myself,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I said no, and then I challenged myself. I said, you know what, I can do it. I should be able to do it. And I reached out to another university that was hosting it, and they were just like 100%, come on board, let's do it. And I did it, and it was literally the best experience ever. And that like made me so much more confident moving forward because I was like, okay, it was in the beginning a circumstance that just fell into my hands, but I
Mm-hmm.
connected that and I kind of recreated myself the challenge. And you just have to recreate your challenges.
Yeah, man, that's a perfect example because it's like I almost feel like as hard as it is, I feel like fear is there for a reason. It's there to push you, and you should because it's almost like you can only stay in your bubble, your comfort zone for so long, and then you reach a point where it's like the progression kind of just stops and you hit a plateau, and it's like okay, well now it's time I gotta challenge myself, and that's when real growth happens, or exactly what you were saying about the TEDx talk, and so
Yeah.
now we're more comfortable on stage, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to get into a little bit about, like, I know we alluded it a little earlier about how you kind of built your brand just by posting content online. But
Yeah.
in terms of gaining a following, I know obviously it attracted brands right off the bat. But in terms of your YouTube and your Instagram, in terms of just followers and people like eyeballs on your content, were you actively going out and being like, hey, okay, you know what, I'm gonna maybe post this because I think like analytics wise is going to do well, or did you find that more eyeballs were just coming on your to your content just organically?
I think it's a combination of the two.
Okay.
Definitely the idea of, I mean, being organic in your content is super important and being original. So for me, the challenge was always to create something that no one else is creating, or to see something in a way that everyone else is not seeing it.
Hmm.
Um, and then sharing stories that were very unique to my experiences and not just kind of an overall, hey guys, I went to the same location this last photographer went to, and I shot the same waterfall in the same time, and I wore the same jacket. That was not me. That
Mm.
never was me, and I've never wanted to do that because that defeats the purpose of why I wanted to pursue photography to begin with. It all came down to the storytelling element and having an experience that I literally lived out my best life, and then also be able to share with people and talk about how beautiful it was, and hopefully have some artistic images to display it.
Hmm.
Um, but obviously, there's a point in time when you're on social media that you do have to be critical.
Yeah.
And as a business, any business, if you're a pizza store, I mean, if you're starting to notice, you have your store, you walk in, or the customer walks in and they see, 10 different types of pizzas, but none of them are interesting to them because they're all, pepperoni pizzas, nothing else.
Right. Yeah.
Next day you try pepperoni, when you have another Hawaiian, you have a vegetarian, you start to see, oh, more people are coming in because you have more options.
Hmm.
You have to do that same analysis with your following. You have to see what your following engages in, and you have to feed into it, but not lose yourself in that, at the same time.
Right.
You have to analyze it and be critical and question, okay, am I going to enjoy making this type of content? If the answer is yes, then go for it. If you don't, then don't do it. Don't do it.
Okay.
For me, thankfully, everything that I was posting, people were liking because I was hitting a specific demographic. I wanted to reach men between the ages of 16 to 50.
Okay.
That's my
So
demographic.
you were intentional in that. That was something
Oh,
that you
yeah,
okay.
100%. Because how am I going to work with Mercedes-Benz? How am I going to work with, motorcycle companies? How am I going to work with men's watch companies? How am I going to be able to make a living off of this if I'm not working with those big brands? Well, I have to curate a demographic that is specific to those brands.
Okay.
And unfortunately, this doesn't just come, it's not just like, this is not just a thought you just develop
Right. Of
because you
course. Yeah.
have
Yeah.
it. But this is like, it takes education, it takes a lot of time of learning and being more analytical in the way that you approach social media. But long term, I was really looking at things in an exponential way. I wasn't looking at things as like, okay, I'm just continuing sharing stuff until one day it hits off. No, I
Hmm.
was way more strategic, and I continue to be way more strategic. 90% of my ads that I put online for products I sell are only targeting men. There's there's no female demographic. Even though I do have a female following, it's just if I'm trying to make a living off of this, I'm not going to make a living selling beauty products or
Right.
promoting beauty products. And so with social media, you're an artist and you get to share your art, but at the same time, it's a business. You have to approach it equally.
Hmm. Yeah, and I always feel like too that not everyone, you think that, hey, you know what, once I start getting a big following, that it automatically I'm going to be able to monetize my audience, or be able to work with brands. But I mean, I've read situations um, where someone would have a big following and they're like, hey guys, you know what, I'm coming out with some merchandise, some sweaters, I'd really love it if you guys would buy it. And keep in mind, this person had like 2 million, 3 million followers, right? And couple weeks, months go by, and the sales numbers on that were crazy low, very unexpected. So I think another element that goes to that is obviously putting out the content and being strategic, but also I think that something that you do well is you make that connection with the audience. So when it's time to be like, hey guys, I'm selling my presets, or hey guys, you know what, I'm doing this, doing that. You have an audience that is willing to actually go out there and be like, wow, you know what, I like Alan's content, I like what he's doing, I like who he is as a person. I'm gonna go out there and support. So how has connecting with your audience helped you in terms of that?
Yeah, tremendously, man. I mean, you hit it like right on the head with that, because that is the biggest um, concern for so many people who are on social media. Like you can have 10 million TikTok followers and dance
Hmm.
all you want in front of people. That doesn't mean you're going to sell anything. That doesn't mean that your audience are loyal to you. That doesn't mean that they're inspired by you. That just means that they're entertained by you. And I think
Exactly.
entertainment is a very different thing than inspiration. And my thing on social media is to always inspire people to really get out, challenge themselves, be as creative as they can be. And yes, obviously, I'm not like showcasing the most normal lifestyle. Not everyone gets to fly around and do this and do that. But I talk about the process. I talk about the story. I break down how I was able to achieve that and why I did it. And it goes back to the whole idea. Like if I were to sell merchandise, I wouldn't just put my name on a freaking piece of blue like material and then sell it. That's not to me merchandise.
Hmm.
I'd rather create a clothing brand, not sell merchandise. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Yeah, yeah, I get you.
in the same way with my presets, I I probably have the most expensive presets on the market right now. And
Okay.
people always like messaging me like, dude, your presets are so damn expensive. I'm like, well, you're buying something that I put 10, 15 years of work into. It's not just, hey, click on this picture, make your picture
Right.
look great, and that's it. No, you're, it's like going to like, I don't know, a high-end brand and being like, hey, can I get this? And then the person's like, by the way, this is like the most exotic leather that there is in the world. And like, you want this for like $10? No, it's not happening.
Yeah.
And I kind of have that in my thought process. It's just like create things that are of quality that people will actually appreciate and that are going to have longevity to them. Don't just make something and sell it because you have an audience. And unfortunately, that is the very common trend on social media, where the moment you blow up, it's like, okay, I need merchandise, I
Hmm.
need hats, I need t-shirts, I need this, that, and more, it's getting very desaturated. And yes, there's people who are making ton of money off of it. Like
Yeah,
every
yeah.
single day, you know, a certain person of influence is making some product that they're selling, and some people are doing it exceptionally well and doing and putting out really good high end quality stuff.
So I feel like you kind of described it, but do you feel like because you take the opposite approach, do you feel like that is one of the things that separate you, because it is a saturated market? You said the influencer market is it's very saturated, but is that one of the ways that, or one of the things you do to separate yourself, to make yourself stand out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I try my best to like always think outside the box. It was social media, it is challenging because when I do something, I feel like other people are also trying to do it as well,
Hmm.
or I'm trying to do something that maybe other people are doing, but I'm always trying to put a spin on it. And I think that's where you get to like, really recalculate your creative perspective. But at the same time, I think there's always these hurdles because it is social media, right? At the end of the day, like all the content that we produce has a life timeline to it. It's not like it's
Yeah.
gonna. Some people go through your feed and they'll go like old pictures, while other people don't. They just to them it's like I need to see something new every single day. And so it is a monster that you're feeding at the end of
Hmm.
the day. And you have to separate yourself from it and then be like, what can I do to make this a lot more fulfilling?
Okay.
Or what can I do to change up the dynamic? Maybe 1 month I'll actually do a gallery exhibit and like invite friends so people can see the actual tangible, photography and allow me to talk about the photo on the wall rather than
Okay.
just have it on a social app platform. So I think it's just really thinking outside the box, and it's hard. Trust me, it's very
It
difficult.
is, yeah.
But go on social media, and I can only imagine if I just started on social media right now and go online and I'd be like, whoa, there's people making this much money doing this, and they get to have this lifestyle, and it seems so easy. Like you get convinced by an image of it that is so unreal. It's
Hmm.
so
I
yeah.
know. And I feel like also too, it's like, some like, people are, more concerned about their online personality, how they look online more so than how they actually are in person, which I think is crazy too, because, as technology advances, that actually might be the case where we might just be enveloped in like a whole virtual world. And then, it's like lines get skewed. But I want to bring it back to a point you said earlier about, we're talking about making yourself different and providing value to your audience. So I think you do that well with your YouTube channel, because on one end you're a photographer, but I feel like you, through the videos on YouTube, you translate that knowledge. So someone who's just like starting out, or someone who is more advanced, just wants to know little tips and tricks, you give that to them. But it's like it's entertaining, and I feel like your personality comes through in the videos. So on the YouTube side, has that really challenged you creatively, to come up with content that's entertaining, but also make sure that for the end viewer on the other side, that they're taking away something every time they watch a video of yours?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one thing that you kind of fall into a trap of with social media is that people want more and more of you and expect
Yeah.
higher of you. And so the educational element of it is always a tricky place because the more you put out videos of teaching things or tutorials on things, people expect that and they expect that
Right.
all. And there has to be a point where you're like, okay, I can't just keep. So for me, I don't know, it's always a challenge. Like I love teaching people, but I love teaching one-on-one. I love, doing workshops and stuff like that. To be on in front of the camera, talk to an online audience that I don't
Right.
even really know who's really on the other end. It's
Hmm.
something challenging for me, and it has a lot to do with just the connection. If there's no real connection, I feel like it's just a void space.
Hmm.
Some of my friends do it so incredibly well, and they've grown these mega YouTube channels and online, you know, teaching websites and stuff like that.
Hmm.
For me, I always find that it's one of those things I try to balance, which is like, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, you do want a normal life. You do want to seem like you go out and have fun with your friends. And you're not on Instagram 1 second, TikTok the next, YouTube the next, Twitter. And for me, like I literally post and then like put my phone away. I don't even like engage
Okay.
with. I might say thank you for a couple of comments, or my team will go back and answer some of the comments. But I try to like really disconnect. And then
That's
it's
good.
been proving to be the most successful way to approach social media because it keeps me excited about posting because I'm not really worried about the feedback as much. It's
Hmm.
just like, oh, I'm just posting something and then it's out of my way. Um, but everyone has their own approach, right? Some people really like sit there for hours and they wait and they see every comment. Um,
It's like it's meant it's like addicting. I think they must have done some study. I forget what, but it gets the dopamine levels and everything. It's almost like a drug essentially, right?
Dude, it's insane. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's insane feeling when you wake up in the morning and you see like one of your pictures went viral or
Mm.
it reached millions of people or what I mean, like, or someone very famous that you really liked started following you because of social media. And it's just that stuff it is a really good feeling,
Hmm.
but it doesn't live forever. So I think what
Yeah.
lives forever is your actual happiness. Like how happy of a person
Like
are you?
inside, internally,
Yeah.
right?
How confident are you in yourself? Yeah.
I think so too. It's actually funny you say that because I was talking with Chris the other day, Chris Howe, and he literally
Yeah.
said he literally said the exact same thing to me. He's like, yeah, you know what? I'm at the point right now where I've noticed in the past my mental health has actually suffered because I got too wrapped up in the
Yeah.
comments and the likes. So now he's doing exactly what you're doing. Is I post my photo, engage with his audience for a bit, and then he deletes the app, and that's it until
Yeah.
until
No,
he posts.
absolutely. Yeah, I told him to stop deleting the app because it's just a process that doesn't need
Yeah,
that.
he's got to reinstall it after.
Yeah, you just have to do it every time. But no, I think that he's a very good example of someone that like blew up very quickly. And,
Yeah,
when you do blow up very quickly, especially right now, it's a very different time than when I like was growing on social media. Because right now, like the quicker you grow on social media, like brands are discovering you much easier. Like
yeah,
before it
they're
was,
just coming at you.
yeah, they're just coming at you, and you know fans are becoming very loyal, and they're becoming very like needy in some ways. So it could feel overwhelming, and you start to question yourself a lot. And I think that's where like having a very good group of circle of friends, which I'm happy to have Chris in my group of friends. We
Hmm.
talk about things. We help each other grow. We really engage on a different level with social media, and we've tried to change the way we approach social media because we're not only there, but we're also instilling a lot of um, understanding in people that want to do what we're doing. A
Right.
lot of people want to be doing what we're doing, and I'd love to tell them like, listen, this is what you're gonna face. This is what's gonna happen. The
Hmm.
moment you become very popular, it's gonna get straight to your head, and you're gonna think that you're like godly, and that's not the
Right.
case. You're not that important. You're
Hmm.
important to the people that know you, but you're not important to the entire world to the point where you think that like a like is gonna affect you or be like the amount of likes you get is gonna be equivalent to who you are as a human. That has nothing to do with it.
Hmm.
Um,
Now that I like how you make that point. Did you find in the beginning? I mean, you said your success and your following kind of grew gradually. It wasn't all at once, but even still, were you tempted? Did you find yourself kind of going that route, or have you been someone who's always stayed grounded? Because maybe your family, your friends, kind of were on you maybe about that stuff. Be like, hey, Alan, you're getting a little bit of a big head. You got to calm down, type of thing.
I honestly have never faced it, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that I didn't want this. I didn't
Okay.
like to this day. Like yesterday, I went out and I could literally bring in the pillow. I saw this pillow at the bay, and it's a building, architectural building on a pillow, and I was like, oh man, I should go back to architecture. So to me, it's like I've never disconnected from the idea of learning and continuing doing other things. Like I have
Okay.
my hands dabbled in so many things that for me, being popular on social media is irrelevant.
Yeah, it's the last
It's
thing on your
really
mind.
cool. It's really nice to be like you walk into a place and people know you, or to be able to get through the door in certain things
Right.
that because of who you are or the number of followers you have.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, like that to me has. I'd rather live a mysterious life where no one knows me, where I'm not even on the internet,
Okay.
than to be on the internet and to be like this open. But because of the value that I'm gaining from it and
Hmm.
experience it outweighs the other right now. And I'm just like, okay, I'll go with it. And I'll be as open to the world as I can. I'm not gonna disclose everything about my life, and I'm not gonna share my entire like friends and family and everything like that.
Hmm. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
the truth.
I was just thinking, like, maybe when you get older, like retirement age, I could see you just going off to maybe like the coast of Italy and something, just disappearing.
Oh, 100%. You have no idea. The moment this COVID is done,
Yeah.
I'm out and I'm gonna go buy a place in Italy. I'm just gonna live on the beach and just like I can't. I can't.
Honestly, I'm Italian, so I'm a little biased, but
Oh,
Italy's
there
just
you
a
go.
beautiful country to me. I don't know, it's
Oh,
just it's
yeah,
beautiful.
dude. Me, it's my second home. I visit Italy for the last how many years of my life? For the last 20 years of my life, I've been going every
Wow.
single year. Yeah, yeah. I don't miss the opportunity to go to Italy. I love Spain as well. I mean, there's a lot of places in Europe that I'm like really tied to, and I'd love to have a home in Amalfi or
Oh,
Palermo or Sicily or something like that one day.
yeah, or Capri or something like that. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. It would be nice.
So I want to go back to a little bit about the branding stuff. So when you for brands that are reaching out to you, obviously, maybe brands you'd work with in the beginning is different from the brands you'd work with now that you've built your brand up to this extent. So what are some requirements, or what do you look for when a brand approaches you? And maybe if you want to hit on some advice for creatives out there who have brands approaching them and what they should really be focused on, and to make sure that the relationship works and that they're not getting taken advantage of, but just that they're getting the value in the situation, they're providing value, but they're also not getting taken advantage of at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's easy to get taken advantage of. especially right now where you might question your next paycheck, and so you
Right.
might sign a contract with someone or do it, which happens very often to people because the moment, I mean, it's unpredictable when you work for yourself as a I mean, if you work for yourself in any industry, you
Hmm.
don't know where your income is going to come from. Sometimes
No.
it might be there and sometimes it might not. And so you can get taken advantage of. And I think the best way to approach it is just to really always understand your value and to put things into perspective and to really draw a map of the things that you've done in the past and the things that you want to do in the future. While working with this client and sacrificing maybe a budget or whatever it might be, gonna get you to where you want to be. And I think a
Okay.
lot of people don't do that. They just work in the moment and they accept things in the moment and they think that's the furthest they're gonna get. And I don't look at the world like that. I'm always like, okay, what does the next 5 years look like for Alen? What does the next 10 years look like? What is my brand growth going to look like strategically if I continue doing this or going into this direction? Um, and yeah, that is a challenge in its own, but it doesn't take, it takes 10 minutes to sit down and write out your thoughts. It
Right. It
takes,
does. Yeah.
it takes less than 2 minutes to really sit down and think through a decision rather than make it on the spot. But keeping a very good rapport with the client is huge. I
Is it
follow
okay?
up with all my clients, even when I'm not working on campaigns with them, just to see
Hmm.
how things are going. At the end of the day, there's a person that's repping that client or an agency that's in between. And keeping that dynamic where they understand that you appreciate that the opportunity or that you like working with them is so important to continuing your brand. And then I think just really understanding what their needs are. Like a lot of people, they'll just do a campaign and they'll try to, they don't really think outside the box of how to really exceptionally prove themselves to the client. At
Okay.
the end of the day, it's not just about creating really cool content. It's about selling a product or pushing a product that the brand might want.
Makes
And
sense.
that might be reinventing the wheel for them and being critical and being like, hey, listen, you guys have been doing this for the last 5 years. Could we try this? And that little idea might be the thing that they're like, oh, hooked on, and they're like, and then next you're working with them for the next 10 years,
Hmm.
and who knows, right?
Which is crazy.
So
In terms of the creative, from your experience, the brands that you've worked with, have they really allowed you to take control of the creative? Is it kind of, hey, Alan, I trust you creative wise, take control of the vision, or is it more so, hey, we have our ideas, I know you have your ideas, let's work together on this?
it depends on the client. Some clients are very particular about what they want because they have their own aesthetic and guidelines. Some other clients are like, they're just already like fans of your work and they're just like,
Okay.
whatever you produce is gonna get like thumbs up. And I love working with those clients, but at the same time I do need those other clients to challenge me to be like, okay, you know what, you didn't do this that well, you should try it differently.
Hmm.
But there also comes a point in time when you have to say, you know what, like um, you have to sit down and be like with the client, maybe this is not the perfect collaboration,
Right.
maybe you're not fit for my specific brand. And for me, it's a little bit difficult because a lot of these brands, they don't only request me to take images of content or create content, but they want me to model the content.
Oh, really?
And
Wow.
so if
Okay.
I'm modeling your product and shooting it and doing
Right.
the creative behind it, it's quite a lot. And I have to now think about, do I want my face on this ad
Right.
online?
Hmm.
Does this work for me? Does this actually
Because
connection or am I
you have to think about your personal brand as well. It's a reflection of
okay?
you. Yeah.
And so I've been in like a couple of years ago, I was in a situation where I was literally going to start designing certain like my own like clothing brand.
Hmm.
And then I did a collaboration with a couple of different clothing companies. And I was like, fuck. I was like, what do I do now? Like,
Yeah.
there's like 20 ads of me online
Oh
wearing their
my God.
clothing. If I come out with my clothing, it's just going to be contradicting. So I had to like
Right.
that time kind of grow out and then now approach it differently. Um, and that means sacrificing money, right? That to me
At
is
the
like,
end of
okay,
the day.
yeah, I won't take that job from whoever it is. I'll just wait until I create my own brand.
Hmm. But like you said a couple times already, you're playing. It seems to me like you're playing the long game anyway. So I don't think you really have the mentality of, hey, oh, like I'm missing out. I gotta get a short term client right now to make that money back, which is good. It's about longevity at the end of the day. So that kind of leads into, I guess, a lot of the creative work you do with your studio, Palander Studios. So
Yeah.
obviously you have your individual personal branding stuff, the YouTube stuff, and now the creative stuff you do with Palander Studios. So what made you want to kind of attack this new venture, and maybe what was the inspiration and the mission behind it?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I have to do a shout out to one of the directors at Air Canada who
There we go.
really,
Okay.
yeah, who's just like, who sat me down and he said, listen, what you're doing on social media is incredible, but what you could do long term for companies is even better. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, wow, like this is actually something that someone else is seeing potential in me. And I always thought about it. I always wanted a production studio, but it was more like a actual like firm that does design. It was nothing to do with photography. So it's like all these things I want to do with architecture that I didn't get the chance to do that I'm doing now with photography,
Okay.
and like video and film and stuff like that. So that conversation sparked this thought in my head. Okay, if I create a production company or a firm or a studio, whatever it might be, what am I doing? And
Mm.
I created like a list of goals, and it was really creating unique pieces of content that would live a long time for brands, and that they could recycle the content constantly without having to feel like it's outdated or it's
Mm.
not, it doesn't resonate anymore with the brand. So it's that was very important to me because I got tired and frustrated with the fact that like I was creating content and it would only be online for a day,
And then
you
be
know,
gone
or like,
after. Yeah.
and then people just move on. I was like, no, the work that you produce should have life to it. Like it should, that ad should come up like 10 years from now and people be
Hmm.
like, whoa, I remember that ad. That ad was really cool. And it's difficult because in the beginning, you're not going to get the biggest budgets. You're not going to get like everything that you thought imaginatively. Because at the end of the day, like I'm doing too many things. Like I
Yeah.
have my hands in too many things, but I wanted to test it out. I want to see if that grew to something at a level that I could like really monetize well. Then I'd go and fully get involved in it, and I have. But COVID came. This year
Right.
was this year was going to be my year actually. Like, to be honest
Real.
with
It
you,
was set up to be that way. Yeah.
this year was
Jeez.
this year was going to change my life, and
Hmm.
it did change my life in other ways. But you know, things happen.
Yeah. And hey, you know what? Maybe 2021, 2022,
Yeah,
it takes it even further, and it's just even more crazier, right?
yeah. I
So,
mean, everyone had goals this year and to
of
do things.
course.
For me, it was just like I worked the last 2 years on my production company, and I finally got agreement to do certain productions, and my name was going to be on certain things I was going to be very proud of.
Okay.
And it's just a matter of rescheduling
Mm, yeah.
and just like working with whatever the circumstances are now. But yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
being adaptable, I guess, at the end of the day, right?
yeah, yeah. At the end of the day, you have to be, for sure.
So a point that you mentioned that, you say right now, that you have your hands in a lot of pots, and you're stretched pretty thin. So how important is team, your staff, or, people that you have working with you? And do you have a team? Like, do you have people that help you with the creative direction, the video production, photography, so that you aren't all doing it by yourself? Because, essentially, I feel like at this point, you just don't have the time to focus on every single thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's virtually impossible for someone to do social media full time, do YouTube videos full time, have a production company, like do all this stuff. You need a team. And sometimes, like I tell my friends, I'm like, if you don't have the income to hire someone, just utilize some of your friends or
Okay.
your family that's like that see potential in what you're doing. And at the end of the day, everyone benefits, right? Like
Hmm.
I get to fly some of my friends with me on amazing trips and show them amazing places around the world. And I built a really solid team of people that I work with, in terms of my video production, in terms of my personal content. And it takes time. And sometimes people go and come, and then, people change their minds. Because at the end of the day, if I get to show someone a perspective, they're like, holy shit, this is possible. They might get
Hmm.
inspired to do it themselves. And that happens quite a lot. Unfortunately, that's the nature of this industry, is that
Hmm.
everyone's freelance and no one wants to be tied down. So I don't ever try to tie down anyone. I'm always just like, any project that's this, it's going to come to you. Any project that's like this, it's going to come to this person, so that the
Okay.
person knows they have a responsibility with me.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, I let everyone do whatever they want, just so that they still feel like they're creating stuff for themselves.
Hmm. Yeah, and they have that option to explore different opportunities as well and expand their creative mindset. 100%. So I think a important point to hit on here. So obviously, it's been a process creating the your studio company. What are a few lessons or a few things that you've learned along the way that maybe you can share for our audience who might be, they might be creatives out there who are looking to start their own agency or their own studio. What are a few lessons or tips that you can share from your experience that might help them out?
Definitely. I mean, bubble diagrams are so important.
Yeah.
Thought diagrams are like writing down your thoughts is something. It's an art that is missing entirely in our generation, I'd say.
Hmm.
I always constantly write down my thoughts and I strategize on paper what I'm doing. And I have this one technique that I always like insist on my friends doing it. No matter what situation you're dealing in life, this technique helps you, where you draw a circle, and in the circle in the middle, you have your goal or you have the thing that you want to focus on. And it
Okay.
could be anything. It could be a relationship. It could be, a job. It could be, and then you draw another circle and you say, these are the things that benefit from being in this particular circle. And then you do a third tier, and then these are the friends. Some people do it for like friends, like they're like trying to figure out which friends to keep and which friends to lose because they might
Okay.
be wasting their time with other people. They'll have like their best friends in the middle or the family, and then they'll have another. It's like people that they've met and the people that they've networked, and then what you do is you have all these tiers and circles that all lead to a middle place. And what you do is you slowly erase the outer circles.
Okay.
So and you slowly erase them as you work towards those. So if you're saying, that one friend group that I have that I met from this event, I
Hmm.
don't need to be really friends with because I'm trying to like really, partition my time properly with my friends, family, and everyone else that I really
Hmm.
care about. You eliminate them. You just
Okay.
eliminate that, or you eliminate that factor that might be impeding on your goal. I mean, I'm doing too many activities.
Hmm.
I horseback ride, play soccer, play tennis. Maybe I have to give up one sport because I need to focus on my business. It's like it's really managing yourself that way. But yeah, I mean, it's just really being analytical.
Hmm.
And social media allows you to be analytical. Your work allows you to be analytical. If you're not making money, there's a reason for it. If you want to make money, there's a way for it. And that takes time, and there's like courses online on how to do it. There's an
YouTube even
abundance.
as well is a good resource.
Yeah, I think that the issue is that people get lazy with
Right.
themselves, and you can't be lazy with yourself. You have to be multifaceted. You have to be interdisciplinary. You have to
Hmm.
be able to really take on different roles and challenge yourself to grow as a person. Um, and it's nice to just lay down on the couch and be lazy and hope the world is going to become a better place for you, but that's
Hmm.
not realistic. It
Yeah.
just isn't.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you gotta, if you want something, you kind of gotta get up off that couch and grab it. Cause,
Yeah,
especially as something I've learned, it's like no one's gonna present it to you on a silver platter, be like, hey, here you go. It's kind of what you
yeah.
make of it.
No
Right.
one does.
So,
No, and
yeah.
we have expectations that is the reality, but it's not at all. It's
Hmm.
really not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just reflecting back on, all you've accomplished a lot. Is there a moment or maybe an accomplishment that you're most proud of that kind of just sticks with you and really resonates with you?
Uh, I don't know. I feel like there's quite a bit. I don't know. I think just in general, like I just look at like even like the one comment I get on the photo, I'm just like,
Mm,
whoa, this is like it still hits me every single time I share something and the message is like, this is amazing, dude. Or like some people see me as the best photographer in the world. I'm like, holy
right.
cow.
Wow. Yeah.
To them, I might be the best photographer in the world. To me, I'm not. I don't consider myself the best photographer in the world by any means.
Yeah.
But the fact that someone thinks that is, it's such an incredible feeling to have, man. It's
Hmm.
unexplainable. You know what I mean? Or I get emails from like really young kids, like 13-year-old kids who are just kind of lost in life and they don't know what to do, and they're asking me for advice. And I feel like
Wow.
that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? I get to give someone some sort of advice, and it's really difficult because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to tell kids not to go to school or to
Of
do this,
course. Yeah.
not to do this. But the fact that someone is coming to me for advice, meaning that they trust me and that whatever I'm doing is good, which is
Hmm.
which is really nice. It's a humbling feeling.
No, 100%. Yeah. No, I can imagine. Yeah. Just because, we sometimes get messages be like, oh, I really like this interview. I really like that. Or I like that piece of content or that video shot. And it's just like, I feel like sometimes people don't understand how powerful the words are. Like, even if it's just like a little, oh, that was good. It's like, the person that's on the receiving end is like, oh, wow, like they really like that.
Yeah.
And that
Oh,
motivates you to like make other stuff, so it's a chain reaction.
absolutely, man. It definitely motivates you in so many ways. And yeah, you just got to work with it, right? That's such good energy. Could you imagine like having that type
Hmm.
of energy every single day? It's like even if there's noise in the background, like I still focus on the positivity of it, and I'm just like, okay, I can keep doing this because this is working, right?
Exactly. So this is a little bit of a big question, but if you were to, when you get to the end of your life, you're on your deathbed, what do you want Alen Palander's legacy to be? Like, what do you want to leave behind? What do you want people to say about you when you leave the earth?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not really concerned about people that I don't know. It's
Of
more
course.
people that
Okay.
I do know, and I think that is just that I was a good person, and I like I love the people the best I could, and that's it.
Okay.
I'm not trying to live a life of legacy or like have unrealistic expectations of myself.
Hmm.
Uh, if I get to a point in my career where I have made a massive impact around the world, then that would be super dope. But like, I don't want a plaque or a statue of me anytime
Yeah.
soon. And I don't know. I don't think like that stuff is awesome, but I think it also um,
Pressure.
it puts a pressure on people, and I think that that's the point where people start to lose them. Like, good example is Kanye West. You know, what I mean, like a very
Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna say that
very
too.
talented person,
Hmm.
done phenomenal music. He has an amazing idea when it comes to his fashion stuff. I would never discredit his artistic abilities, but just enjoy your moment.
Right.
Like, stop desiring so much more. Like, where you are in your life is so monumental,
Hmm.
and it's so unachievable for everyone in the world. It's like, who can say that they've done what he is able to achieve?
Not many people.
How
Not many
many?
people.
Like, dude, the moment you're looking at your bank account and you can't even read out the numbers,
Right.
you should stop and fucking sit down and
And
enjoy it.
enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean. And I think that's where like the the I guess, how do I say it, the curve starts to fall. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Well,
don't
it's
want.
like the always like the curve of always wanting like because you think about like you just made a perfect point where it's like you can't even read out he probably can't even read out the amount of zeros in his bank
Yeah.
account, and yet in his mind that's not enough, or I want more, I need to push the envelope. So it's
I mean, you
almost
have a family of kids, you have everything you want. Like, I don't know,
exactly.
and I obviously there's mental conditions that are involved in this circumstance, but I think a lot of those mental conditions are impacted by this desire to be much more.
Mm,
Uh, and obviously, the U.S. is a very messed up situation, and there is limitations on people who are of the colors, or who come from certain areas around, like in the country, and so on and so forth.
hmm.
And obviously, you want to break barriers, but I think there's just a different way of doing it. I don't know. I'm not someone who's like trying to live a monumental life. I think it's just more like live your best life and love the people that love you, and that's it. Like,
Yeah. I
simple as
like
that.
that. I like that too, because at the end of the day, it's like, you gotta live for yourself and those you hold closest to you, and that's all that you can do, right? So I definitely
Yeah.
agree with that.
That's it.
So for people who want to follow you, subscribe to your content, get in contact with you, just get to know you online and stuff like that, where's the best place for them to reach out to you?
Honestly, they can follow me on Instagram, as the easiest thing to do.
Okay.
They can DM me if they want. It's very difficult for me to answer all the DMs, but I try to once in a while just to go in there and you know connect with someone. My email, info@alanpalander.com. I always go through my emails myself, and I challenge myself all the time to reply. I'm always
To
like,
get
"Hey,
through
you're
the
gonna reply
inbox.
to this one," but sometimes there's such heartfelt emails, and it's hard to give someone advice on certain personal things in their lives. But
Right.
yeah, anywhere you find me on the internet is more than enough.
Okay.
Don't come
And
to my
and
house.
yeah,
Just don't come to my
yeah.
house.
You don't want anyone showing up at your house or anything like that. So guys, we'll make sure to leave all those links in the description box below. So if you guys do want to check out all those links that he just said, you guys will do that fairly easily. So Alan, going to end off with a little rapid fire question game. Just
Yes.
going to rifle off some quick questions, quick rapid responses back. You ready to go?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay. So first one, if you were on the TV show Survivor and had to vote either Peter McKinnon, Chris Howe, or Manny Hapuja off the island, who would you choose?
Off the island.
Off the island, like he's voted off the island.
Oh man, that's a hard one. Oh, oh. I would probably get Peter off the island.
Okay. Well, is there a certain reason
Because
why?
well, I mean, if we're gonna survive, I feel like Peter would want to just live on the island,
Right.
and I'm not down to live on the island. Like I know Maddie and Chris would be like, "Yo, dude, let's get the hell off this island."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, hey, man, life
You
is
don't want to
good.
stay?
Look, I can carve this out of this tree and stuff like that.
Oh my God,
It
that's
was
funny.
fun.
I could see that too. Okay, next one. What's your favorite place you've traveled to?
Oh, that's so hard. Probably motherland. I love Iraq. It's
Okay, of course.
a place in the world that I truly think everyone needs to discover once in their life. If you want to feel where like the cradle of civilization, I mean like where humans actually started coexisting,
Hmm.
and like where you just feel like the soil there, like I don't know, it's
It's just different.
oh man, it's unreal, unreal.
So,
History.
what place would you recommend someone check that out?
They can come to my city. I'm in the northern part of the country. It's called Erbil.
Okay.
And there's a small little town next to it called Ankawa, which is where I was born. So that
Okay.
area is awesome.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna look because
Yeah,
I'm gonna
you
look
know-
those places up. Definitely, I will. I'm gonna Google it right now. So next one, what's your favorite camera lens of all time? I think I know the answer to this, and I think your audience will know, but let's just hear it.
I don't know. I mean, it's difficult. There's a couple, but I would right now. I'm like obsessed with my 24-70.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would have said 35 millimeter, but I'm kind of over it now.
Okay, so that's what I thought you would have said, but I guess you're over it now, so it makes sense.
It's a great prime lens, but it's just sometimes it becomes difficult to use for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, definitely certain situational type of lens for sure. So last one, if you could have dinner with anyone, either dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, dead or alive?
Yeah.
Oh, I would have loved. This is gonna be more and more emotional one, but I would love to have dinner with my grandpa. I never
Oh.
got to meet him, so it would have been amazing because I've heard so many stories about him, and
Yeah.
that would have been. If it was someone that I didn't know, I would
Mhm.
probably choose Anthony Gaudi, which is a very renowned architect from Spain that built
Okay.
majority of the beautiful architecture in Barcelona.
Awesome. Well, Alan, that concludes the interview. Thank you, man, for stopping by
Yeah,
and
thanks for
talking with
having
me.
me.
Really appreciate it. Guys, we'll make sure to leave all of his social links in the description box below, as well as our own. So if you guys want to keep up to date on everything Real Collective, you'll be able to do so. Alan, thank you again, and we'll catch you guys
Thanks,
soon.
Corey.